All right, welcome to another edition of the Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Randy Zellea from BackSportsPage.com, and thank you for making us a part of your week. That's what I say every week, but we've been on hiatus for a little while because we are changing up the direction of the show, but we had an amazing opportunity handed to us this week to have Mickie James, the Impact Knockouts World Champion, join our show, and we couldn't resist. So we're back with you this week with Mickie James to talk about Sacrifice. Who's she going to fight? Tasha Steelz or Chelsea Green? Who is it going to be? As we learned that last night on Impact, as we are recording this on a Friday. Sacrifice next weekend, available on the Impact Wrestling Plus app. Check it out. Tickets for the event in Louisville available now. Go to impactwrestling.com for more information. A stacked card for Sacrifice. Let's go over it real quickly. Alex Shelley will fight Jay White. They call this one of the dream matches. Jay White, who also apparently has showed up on AEW, the Forbidden Door, as they like to say, as Mickie and I discussed the Forbidden Door during our interview today. Also, the Inspiration, Cassie Lee and Jesse McKay versus the Influence, Madison Rayne and Tennille Dashwood for the Tag Team Champions for the Impact Knockouts World Tag Team Championship. Trey Miguel versus Jake Something for the Impact X Division Championship. Moose versus Heath in a singles match for the Impact World Championship. The Good Brothers defend the Impact Tag Team Championship. That is Doc Ellis and Carl Anderson versus Violent by Design. But which two members will it be? Will it be Eric Young, Diener, or Joe Doring? Or Doring? I can't pronounce his name right. I apologize. Rhino will battle Eddie Edwards, and a lot of controversy surrounding Eddie Edwards right now and his loyalty to Impact Wrestling. Jono will battle PCO, and then Mickie James, as we discussed, will take on the winner of Tasha Steelz, Chelsea Green, for this upcoming week on Impact. So lots of stuff going on. Don't forget, you definitely want to check out this show, Sacrifice, next Saturday on the Impact Plus app. So download that now and check out their show. Mickie James joins us this week, like we stated, and we discuss a lot. We discuss her Royal Rumble appearance. We discuss her time in Impact Wrestling from her different stints. We discuss making the Mickie James brand and being able to perform her music, not just be a wrestler. So many different topics we discussed on in a short amount of time. You guys are going to love this interview, and we'll be right back in a couple minutes with Mickie James. All right, back here on the Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast. With me now, I guess we should call her the woman who's breaking barriers throughout her whole career. I'm talking about Mickie James. And Mickie, thanks for giving me a few minutes. I really appreciate it. The Knockouts Women Champion. Listen, you have certainly made headlines over the last year. First off, how are you?
I'm amazing. Thank you for asking. Thanks for asking that question. Yeah, I'm doing great. Doing great.
Well, you know what the amazing thing is? Obviously, you've done a lot of press lately, especially about your Royal Rumble appearance being the first time ever. I think WWE's acknowledged Impact on their programming, and that's you. Again, you're the quote unquote Forbidden Door, which has been I guess the hot. Over the past few years, we've heard great one-line repetition, like the what's best for business and all this other stuff. But the Forbidden Door seems to be the 21-22 phrase, but. What did it mean to you to represent Impact, a company that you had a lot of history from, to be in that spot? I don't want to spend too much time on WWE stuff. I want to talk a little, but this was a really big step, and you were the one who broke the door down.
Yeah, it was crazy, and I think it was amazing. It was amazing. And I say that because it's crazy how my career has gone. If you think about the evolution of Mickie James from little Alexis Lurie, the independent scene in the Mid-Atlantic and the New York, New Jersey, Philly area, because I worked with Ring of Honor in the baby stages, and then go to TNA at the time, which was Jeff and Jerry Jarrett, and just out of the Nashville Fairgrounds on those. And then the stuff that I did with Raven, and then to get hired out of that and put in developmental and OVW in Louisville, which is where I'm right now. I got to go to OVW last night as well. We'll talk about that later, but to go to Louisville and that developmental years of those 3 years of kind of like grinding here and just kind of fine tuning, to then debut on television and have an incredible run. And Mickie James was born from Alexis Lurie back to me, real me, Mickie James, which is kind of ironic. And then to leave there and almost go to Impact and reestablish myself and rebrand myself as this hardcore country, which is very true to who I am. It was very authentic and very me. To be able to create her and cultivate her there and have so much history. We're a place that already had history and already had good relationships with Jeff Jarrett and everyone that was already there. And then I recently said on Kurt Angle's podcast, like, because Kurt was at that time, I was pretty devastated in the sense of like, oh, I lost my dream job, everything that I wanted. And it was Kurt who convinced me to come to Impact. And Dixie was Dixie had asked him to call me to come there. And I'm so grateful for that, because I was so heartbroken about wrestling in that moment that I just go like, God, what if I would have just been like, oh, okay, that was it. That was good. In 2010, like this whole last 12 years.
That was 12 years ago already. Wow.
That's wild when you think about it. And I was so heartbroken. And then I ended up going there, and I'm so grateful because I got to sing I created my own entrance music with Serge and with Dale, and then came up with hardcore country and this character, and really how to develop and push her and make her edgier and grow Mickie James up, because I felt like she was the girl next door, the little girl next door, and not edgy enough. And yeah, I got a bit edgier and was able to do that, but then come full circle and then go back to WWE and that last run that I had, and be able to align myself with Alexa and do all kinds of different things and work with a lot of the girls between Asuka and even the stuff that I did with Asuka on the way out, my last bit. But then leaving and then coming to do Empower at NWA and stepping into more of that leadership role in that locker room, but then to come over to Impact and win the Knockouts Championship again and hit double digits, 10-time women's television world champion in multiple companies. But to do all of these things, I'm going like, crap, this is insane. And if you would have told me, because when I first broke into the business, I remember them saying to me as a woman, make sure that when you make your money, make your backup plan, because a woman's time on television is 5 years tops, 7. And once you're done, because women would go have babies and go do all the things. And then once they did those things, they weren't coming back to wrestling. And I was like, wow. So I have literally if I debut on television, if I make it that far, I literally have only 5 years to go as hard as I can and to do the most that I can do, because that's all I get because I'm a woman. You know what I mean? Like that's really, and when I looked at it, and then I went back and I kind of studied and I looked at the longevity of women on TV, aside from like a sensational Sherry or the random 1 or 2, it was reality. I was like, holy crap, this is wild. When you think about it, I go, wow. And you'd see men on television for 15, 20, 30 years, but women, typically a 5-year run. And I'll go, that's insane. And now 22 years here later, and I'm like,
broke the barrier though.
It's not like that anymore. It's not like, it doesn't have to be like that, because perception has changed. And so, yeah, it's cool.
But you also have to look at it from a different perspective. Again, I don't want to keep going back to anything with WWE, because I want to make this more Impact. But if you look back to where you started with them and your major feuds on television, you outlasted them, and they were so far the quote pioneers. So yeah. that says something about not only about you as a performer, but also says something about your work ethic for not quitting. Like you said, 5 years, okay, but now you're on year 22. Or you're 12. You're 12. I apologize. I'm aging. I apologize. The one thing you never do is age.
Okay, no, but it is 22 this year, November, I guess, because I first stepped into a wrestling school, November 1998.
I went with the 12-year gap. I went to 12-year gap.
Yeah. So November 98, but my first match was March 3rd, 1999. It was an intergender tag match. American Mike Brown and Candy versus myself and Jake Damian. It was terrible. It was pretty much every match the first 2 years of my career were pretty bad. And then it got bad and then better. And then, I digress, but you know what I'm saying? But yeah.
But here's a good question for you, though, because you mentioned before, and I did my research, and you were in TNA Impact Wrestling back in 2002 when the Jarretts were running everything. If you can go back and give a message to yourself back at that time frame from what you've learned, what advice would you give yourself?
Don't doubt yourself, and don't let other people's opinions of who you are, who you should be, change your reality, change your perception of you. Because I think there's a lot of times when in my heart and my gut, I felt like a certain way, but I didn't, because I felt like the person who was telling me they were smarter than me, or they knew better than me, or whatever. And so I listened, or whatever the case may be. And there's a lot of times, like when you doubt yourself, it's hard. It's hard because it's easy to slip into doubt, because like you said, you're not always at the top of the mountain. Sometimes you're down here in the valley, and it's hard to see it until it's all like, I don't think that I had any idea then of the things that I would do, Yeah. Like I was so living in, and that was a very different me. And so I was so hungry, and I was so excited, but I was nervous, and I was so, self-conscious. I was not in my power, or I was not that same level of confidence that I am now of who I know I am. And it really took a while to get to that point, to like trust myself and that kind of thing. So just to stay hungry and keep working, and don't listen to other people, listen to advice, obviously, never
Right. Yeah.
not listen to advice when I say, but there's a lot of people who will block you or try to stop you from achieving your dreams. And that's only because they're too scared to go after theirs. And it took a long time for me to realize that reality.
Well, and that's 100% true. And now you're a leader in the locker room for a bunch of hungry young talent. You have, we were just discussing before we came on the air, you have Tasha and Chelsea with the #1 contenders match to see who's going to be fighting you next week at Sacrifice on the Impact Plus app, and available anytime on all the streaming broadcasts for Impact. I got to tell you, if I feel like you gave a little bit of an injection of fresh air to the knockout division. Not that the Diana and the other girls were not doing a good job, but it's the veteran versus the kids. And I always have expression, because I cover sports, the only way younger talent is going to get better and reach their potential is if they're going against people that are better than them, and they have to go up to the veterans level to get better. Is that sort of where your role right now is, Impact? You're the veteran champion, and you're working with a lot of these younger talents.
Thank you. That's nice. Well, there is that old saying that you're only as good as the people that you're in there with. And I will say Deanna's one of the best in the world, like period. After being in the ring, a lot of people had said that to me, and I'd seen her, and I'd obviously watched her work at NXT, and I'd seen her. I'd even wrestled her before in like Jersey, in that in between place after I'd had Donovan. So I'd wrestled her, a young Deonna Purrazzo, but to see how much she's grown and grown up, and then really kind of found herself and her style, it's awesome. And she was an incredible champion. I would never take that away from her. But I think that it's fun to be back. And I think that the people can feel that I'm having fun out there, and I have that freedom to just be me. And that's very infectious, with a crowd, because they're there to have a good time as well. And obviously they're there for the fights and the butt kickings and all the things, but ultimately we're all there to have a good time, and we're living the dream out there, right? To be able to perform in front of our audience. I do believe that I always wanted to be in the ring with people who were better than me. I still want to be in the ring with people who are better than me, if we can find them. No, but I still really want to be, I'm still learning out there, and I learn from these girls just as much, because, it is, the audience has evolved, and the expectations of what they want to see from the women have leveled up, and it's cool. And it's cool that now, because I've always wanted to be in that position where, although I was the first woman in a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match, Lisa and I main evented Impact in that cage match at a first Falls Count Anywhere
Which
match.
is awesome, by the way. If you guys have the Impact Plus app, go back and watch that match. Please do.
Well, it was so great.
Yeah.
It was such a great match. That whole story with Madison and Tara, you'll know her, Lisa Victoria.
Yeah.
was just so much fun. And it was kind of odd because that it was also with Tara, who I had history with in WWE. So to come here and do it. And I remember her telling me, she goes, one of the main reasons why I wanted to come here to Impact is because the knockouts are literally killing it. Like they are allowed to do like their division. We legit have one of the best women's divisions in the world because of the things that the knockouts are allowed to do. And they were never looked at like they were getting double segments. They were getting all the time. They were getting main event spots before it was a hashtag, before it was a cool thing to do. So they were just well ahead of the curve on that. And so that it was just a lot of fun because we did some cool stuff.
Well, and not only that, but you were given the time, and that's the key thing. If you give somebody a time, yes, you might have to make a mistake out there, but that's the only way again you're going to learn. But your second, I believe it was your second run where you did a lot of work with Madison Rayne. That work was amazing, and again, that's one of the reasons why Impact always seemed to get a bad rep because of a lot of the business side, not had nothing to do with the performers and the product in the ring. But if you go back and watch on the app, some of the best wrestling of this generation is on that app, in both male and female. And you are a pioneer on the women's side of it. Last couple questions for you here, because I know we're against the clock. You have a very busy schedule today, helping promote Sacrifice and everything Impact Wrestling.
Why have I wanted to sing Creed all day long by Sacrifice?
That's a great song.
It's a great song.
It's a great song. That's why. Can you talk about the other opportunities that you were able to have, not just in the ring, but being able to record music and help build the Mickie Jams brand, not just in the ring, but outside the ring? How important was that for you that Impact was able to give you that platform?
That was something that I learned, the first time I left WWE is that, and I think I'd smartened up to it when I was there because you see so many people and they only have this one thing. I was so fortunate that I had music and I was just in the studio on Tuesday to cut my new single. You guys just wait. But it's going to be good. But it's cool because I think that I'm an artist in that sense. Like I have to creatively write or draw, or I just need to get it out. Like I need to get that. And that's kind of how I express myself. But it's also it's something that I've loved to do since a child. I've written, I've done art my whole life. Whether I'm any good at it, that's, debatable. It's up to your taste. However, it's so much fun. And I think the freedom, that's one thing about, for me, like that's where I'm at now, is like the freedom. I just am in a place that I just want to do what I want to do and what feels right. And if I don't want to do it, or if I don't like it or love it, I'm just not going to, because I don't have to, so we have our supplement company that my husband launched early last year in the beginning of the pandemic, or right in the middle of the pandemic. And it's grown so much just in 1 year, to where now we have legacy subs, and now the female brand is the Her Legacy subs. We launched a CBD line and a wellness line out of that. My podcast that I do with the girls, the Gawcast, which is so fun. I also started in the middle of a pandemic and boredom with my torn ACL, going like, Johnny, I'm out of my mind, like all I can do is my rehab. And obviously I have my son, but then he goes to school, and then I'm sitting there and I got nothing to do I need something to do. And so we started that, and it was so much fun. And we now over 100 episodes deep, and it's so much fun. And then, I'm just kind of dabbling, and I really like the idea of like trying to help behind the scenes and help any of the girls or guys really that want my help with character stuff or anything that I've learned, because that's how I learned. I learned from people who I appreciated their opinions and respected, and I'd ask them how they made money. How did you do it? How did you break through? Because for every one person that breaks through, there's 100 that don't. Probably more, like, because in wrestling, until recently, there was only one place to really go. Whereas if you were trying to be a football star or a track star or a basketball star, you have several teams to choose from that you could possibly get drafted to. Doesn't work like that in wrestling. There's thousands of people all trying out for your one spot, so how did you do it? And I was fortunate to have some really cool mentors in order to ask those questions that gave me really great advice and to learn from. And so I think now if I can help some of those girls and guys get there a little quicker, it might be nice, because I love it. And I want this, I love wrestling so much and I want it to continue to be awesome.
Well, it's because also, again, like we said before, you're a pioneer. You're again, there's the title of trailblazer that goes around, but sometimes it doesn't go on the people who deserve to have it. And Mickie, I know we're against the clock. I wanted to thank you for your time. Don't, again, sacrifice next weekend to Impact Plus. Watch it streaming. Again, we'll find out this upcoming week. Chelsea or Tasha, any preference?
Chelsea. I already beat Tasha.
She's hungry though. She's hungry.
I know she's hungry, and I'll give her a sandwich, okay? But at the same time, I think that I've already beaten Tasha. The only reason why she got any sort of advantage in that match at No Surrender anyway was because of her best friend, Savannah. And so now she wants to complain about how I somehow screwed her out of the championship because Chelsea's involvement. Well, in my opinion, like, she was only coming out there to equalize your friend. And she was the one that was blasted off the apron. So who was really hurt in the situation here?
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. Hello, Gail. I don't know what you're doing, but fine. They'll have this number one contenders match. Chelsea's going to do great. They're both great. And here's the thing is that Tasha is great. I never said she wasn't great, but I already beat you. I've already beaten you. And I feel like this is the match between Chelsea and I was the one that she took away from the people in the first place. And it's one that the fans really want to see. It's one that Chelsea and I really want. And I think it's about time that we did it because our two journeys, the same kind of thing, have been pretty awesome. But we've never seen us together. So I'd like to do that.
Well, Mickie, I wish you the best of luck. Hold on right 1 second. And we'll be back here on the Cup Wrestling Podcast right after this.
All right, so that was Mickie James. A lot to unpack there. The fact of the matter is she is a trailblazer, and she was the forbidden door into the WWE. She was her first one who was able to be Impact World Champion, Impact Knockouts Champion, and appear on a WWE pay-per-view. So she made history. There's a lot of different great little insights there, especially her time being an original member of the TNA Impact roster back in 2002 with the Jarretts running that promotion. A lot to unpack there. Wow, she's just so great. I wish we had more time with her. She will be at Sacrifice next weekend, facing the winner of Tasha Steelz and Chelsea Green, which we will know this upcoming Thursday who her opponent will be. Also, we went down over the card. Moose is going to be there. Heath is going to be there. The Good Brothers is going to be there. Check out the event if you're in the Louisville area. Ticket information available at impactwrestling.com, as well as being able to view the show on the Impact Plus app. So check that out now. As for the Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast, like we said, we are on a little bit of a hiatus right now because we have some different ideas on how we're going to shape the show a little bit better. So we can also discuss about the major topics of professional wrestling, just not be a one-on-one interview show. So we are going to still have interviews. We're going to have some roundtables and some different things. Andrew, Alyssa, JD, and I have been sitting down, coming up with some different ideas for you guys to make this a little bit more of a variety and have a little bit of everything, not just one thing. So if you don't like the guests, you're not here. So we are still going to have guests. We're still going to have roundtables. We're going to have a lot of great things. Thank you for Impact Wrestling this week for giving us the opportunity to speak with Mickie James. And we thank everybody for giving us the opportunity and tuning in for this episode. We will be back on March 4th with a new episode of the Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast. We will see you then. For Randy Zellea from Back Sports Page, this has been the Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast, and we'll see you then.